Ion adjusted the collar of his simple blue shirt as the taxi slowed down. His phone buzzed one last time with a message from Sarah. Don't be nervous. Just be yourself. Easy for her to say, he thought. He was about to meet her father, the man everyone whispered about with awe. A self-made millionaire, a legend in business circles, a man whose approval could decide his future in a single glance. But as the taxi stopped, Ion frowned. This wasn't a mansion. There were no gates, no guards, no shining marble driveway. Instead, he stepped out into a cloud of dust and rust. Before him stretched a scrapyard, mountains of twisted metal, broken machines, discarded car parts stacked like skeletons of forgotten dreams. The air smelled of oil and iron. Somewhere in the distance, metal clanged against metal. The driver looked at him through the mirror. Yahi Jaga hi, bye, he said. This is the place. Ion paid, thanked him, and stood there for a moment, confused. He checked the address again. It matched. His heart pounded harder, not with fear, but with uncertainty. Maybe this is one of his businesses, Ion reasoned. Maybe the real house is inside. He walked forward carefully, his polished shoes sinking slightly into the dirt. That's when he saw the old man. The man was bent over a pile of scrap, sorting metal with bare hands. His clothes were faded and torn at the elbows. His hair was gray and unkempt, and his face was marked with deep lines, lines carved by years of hard labor. Grease stained his fingers, sweat rolled down his temple, but his movements were steady, practiced. Ion hesitated. This couldn't be Sarah's father, could it? He cleared his throat. Excuse me, sir, Ion said politely. I'm looking for Mr. Rahman. The old man didn't look up right away. He placed a piece of copper into a separate pile, wiped his hands on his trousers, and then finally raised his eyes. Sharp eyes, observant, calm. I'm Rahman, the man said simply. What do you want? Ion felt his chest tighten. I'm Ion, he said. Sarah's friend. The old man studied him from head to toe, the clean shirt, the respectful posture, the nervous but honest expression. His gaze lingered on Ion's shoes, then returned to his face. So, Rahman said slowly, you're the boy who wants to marry my daughter. The words hit harder than Ion expected. He swallowed. Yes, sir. There was no handshake, no smile, just silence. Then the old man turned back to his work as if Ion were invisible. Stand there if you want, Rahman said, picking up another piece of scrap. This is my scrapyard. I'm just a scrap dealer. Ion felt heat rise in his face, not from shame, but from confusion. Everything he had heard about Sarah's father painted a picture of luxury and power. Yet here he was, standing in front of a man who looked like he struggled to survive. Ion could have walked away. Many would have. He imagined other men in his place, complaining about the dirt, the smell, the disrespect. Some might have assumed Sarah had lied. Others might have looked down on the old man and lost interest entirely. But Ion didn't move. Instead, he looked at the piles of metal, then at the old man's trembling hands. Sir, Ion said gently, may I help? Rahman paused. For the first time, surprise flickered across his face. Help, he repeated. Your hands will get dirty. That's okay, Ion replied, rolling up his sleeves without hesitation. Work doesn't become small just because it's hard. Rahman watched silently as Ion picked up a piece of scrap, unsure at first, then following the old man's sorting method. The metal was heavier than it looked. Rust scraped against his palms. His expensive watch brushed dangerously close to sharp edges, but Ion didn't pull back. Minutes passed. Neither spoke. The sun climbed higher, beating down on them. Sweat soaked through Ion's shirt, but he kept working. Not once did he complain. Rahman observed everything. The patience, the respect, the way Ion listened more than he spoke. Inside, the old man smiled quietly. Let's see how long you last, he thought. This is only the beginning of the test. The sun had begun its slow descent, turning the scrapyard into a furnace of orange light. Ion's arms ached, rust stained his palms, and sweat clung to his back, but he didn't stop. Piece by piece, he sorted metal beside the old man, matching his rhythm without being asked. Finally, Rahman straightened his back with a quiet groan. That's enough for today, he said. Ion paused, breathing hard. Yes, sir. Rahman walked toward a small tin shed at the edge of the yard. Its paint was peeling, the door slightly crooked. He motioned for Ion to follow. Inside, the shed was dim and cramped. A wooden table stood in the center, its surface scarred with burn marks and scratches. Two mismatched chairs faced each other. A rusty fan hummed weakly overhead, pushing warm air around. Rahman sat first. Ion waited. Sit, the old man said. Ion obeyed, careful not to look impatient or uncomfortable. Rahman poured water from a steel jug into 2 glasses. He slid one toward Ion. Drink. You worked hard. Thank you, Ion said sincerely, taking a long sip. The water tasted slightly metallic, but it was cold and refreshing. Rahman leaned back, folding his arms. His eyes, still sharp, still calculating, never left Ion's face. You know, Rahman began slowly, men like you usually don't come here. Ion nodded. I didn't come for the place, sir. I came for your permission. Rahman gave a short, humorless laugh. Permission, he repeated. For my daughter. Silence settled between them, thick and heavy. Then Rahman stood, walked to a corner of the shed, and pulled open a small metal box. Inside were bundles of cash, neatly stacked, clean, unmistakably valuable. Ion's eyes widened for just a second before he quickly looked away. Rahman placed the box on the table with a dull thud. Take this, Rahman said. There's more where it came from. Ion froze. I can give you money, Rahman continued calmly. A car, a shop, a comfortable life. You won't have to struggle like this. He gestured around the shed. All I ask is one thing. Ion felt his heartbeat in his ears. What thing, sir? Leave Sarah. The words cut through the air like a blade. Ion stared at Rahman, searching his face for a sign of a joke, but there was none. Only seriousness. Testing seriousness. Why? Ion asked quietly. Rahman leaned forward. Because my daughter deserves more than a man who will live a hard life. Love fades when poverty enters the house. I want her safe, secure. Ion's fingers tightened around the glass of water. With this money, his life could change overnight. No more small rented room. No more worrying about bills. No more late nights calculating expenses. For a brief moment, the temptation whispered. But then he remembered Sarah's smile. Her faith in him. The way she believed in his dreams even when the world didn't. Ion pushed the glass aside and stood up. Sir, he said firmly, if I wanted money, I wouldn't be here. Rahman raised an eyebrow. Everyone wants money. Yes, Ion agreed, but not at the cost of selling my love. He slid the metal box back across the table. I don't love Sarah because she is your daughter, Ion continued. I love her because she stood by me when I had nothing. If you are poor, I respect you as her father. If you are rich, I still won't take your money to leave her. Rahman's expression remained unreadable. So you're choosing struggle over comfort? He asked. I'm choosing honesty, Ion replied. If Sarah ever leaves me, that will be her decision, not because I was paid to disappear. The old man stood, towering over Ion now. The air felt tight, almost suffocating. You know what happens to men who refuse offers like this, Rahman said quietly. Ion met his gaze without flinching. They live with self-respect, he answered. For the first time, Rahman smiled. Not openly, not warmly, but just enough for Ion to notice. You may go, Rahman said, turning away. I need time to think. Ion nodded respectfully. Thank you for listening, sir. As he stepped out of the shed and into the fading light, he didn't know if he had just secured his future, or destroyed it. Behind him, Rahman watched through the doorway, his eyes no longer cold. He didn't bend, Rahman thought. Most men do, and somewhere deep inside, the final decision had already begun to form. The next morning, Ion barely slept. His mind replayed every word from the scrapyard, every look from Rahman. Had he passed the test, or failed it completely? He checked his phone repeatedly, half expecting a message from Sarah, half fearing silence. Just as the sun climbed higher, his phone rang. Come back to the scrapyard, Rahman said. His voice was firm, unreadable. Today, noon. The line went dead. At exactly 12, Ion stood once again at the entrance of the scrapyard. The place looked the same. Rusted metal, dusty ground, the harsh smell of oil, but something felt different. Too quiet. Too orderly. He took a few steps forward. Then he heard engines. 1, 2, 5. Black luxury cars rolled in through the wide gate, their polished bodies reflecting the sun like mirrors. Men in sharp suits stepped out, wearing earpieces, scanning the area with trained eyes. Ion's heart dropped. Workers froze mid-motion. The scrapyard fell silent. From the center of it all, Rahman appeared. But this time, he was not wearing torn clothes. He wore a crisp charcoal suit, tailored perfectly to his frame. His gray hair was neatly combed. His posture was straight, commanding, powerful. The scrap dealer was gone. Ion stood speechless. Rahman walked toward him, each step steady and confident. "Good afternoon, Ion," he said, his voice the same, but now it carried authority. Ion swallowed. "Sir." Rahman smiled fully now. "My name is Abdul Rahman," he said. "Founder of Rahman Industries." The name hit like thunder. Ion had read it in business magazines. Heard it on the news. One of the country's most influential businessmen. "I pretended to be poor," Rahman continued, "because money reveals nothing about a man. Character does." Ion struggled to find words. "I didn't know," he finally said. "If I had." Rahman raised a hand. "That's exactly why you passed." At that moment, another car door opened. Sarah stepped out. She wore a simple white dress, her eyes already filled with tears. She ran toward Ion and stopped just inches away, afraid to interrupt the moment. "You didn't tell him?" Ion asked softly. Sarah shook her head. "I wanted my father to see you for who you really are." Rahman watched them, pride flickering in his eyes. "Yesterday," Rahman said, turning back to Ion, "you could have taken the money and disappeared. Many have. Some even insulted me when they thought I was just a scrap dealer." He gestured to the scrapyard. "You worked with me. You respected me. And when tested, you chose love over wealth." Rahman reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it, revealing a simple gold ring. "This," he said, placing it gently in Ion's palm, "is my blessing." Ion's hands trembled. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," Rahman replied. "Just promise me one thing." "Yes," Ion said, immediately. "Never let success change the man I tested here." Ion looked at Sarah, then back at Rahman. "I promise." Rahman nodded and turned to his men. "Prepare the house. The wedding will be soon." Sarah gasped, covering her mouth. Ion felt his chest tighten, not with fear, but with overwhelming gratitude. As the luxury cars slowly exited the scrapyard, Rahman paused beside the old pile of scrap metal. He picked up a small rusted piece, turning it in his hand. "People judge value by shine," he said quietly. "But the strongest metal is often hidden under rust." He placed the scrap down and walked away. Ion stood there holding the ring, realizing something profound. He hadn't been tested for his wealth, his education, or his status. He had been tested for his heart. And in that dusty scrapyard, among broken metal and silent witnesses, his future had been forged.